A low thunder rolled across the military base as the morning sky dimmed behind thick clouds, but inside the underground war room, the storm had already begun. Everything changed the moment she walked in. The echo of her boots on the polished steel floor seemed too soft, too light, too out of place among the rows of stern-faced commanders, decorated officers, and hardened strategists who had spent years shaping the fate of nations. Yet there she stood, small in stature, young in face, wearing a rank that made half the room lift their eyebrows in disbelief. No one knew her story. No one understood the scars under her uniform. No one imagined that in less than a minute, the entire war room would be forced to rise in respect. But for now, they only saw a woman they believed didn't belong. She felt their silent judgment press against her like cold metal. Even before she reached the table, a few officers smirked, exchanging glances as if her presence were some kind of misunderstanding. The storm screens flickered with satellite images, enemy movements, critical warnings, but the real tension hummed around her. She swallowed once, quietly, refusing to let her hands tremble. She had been through darker rooms, colder nights, heavier losses than any of these men would ever know. And still, one of the generals, broad-shouldered, seasoned by years of comfort more than combat, let out a short, mocking laugh when he caught sight of her insignia. A laugh that sliced through the silence. A laugh that tried to shrink her. A laugh that reminded her of every barrier she had ever been told she could not cross. In that brief moment, memories erupted in her mind like flash fire. She remembered the outpost where she nearly lost her life, the freezing wind that tore at her skin as she dragged a wounded soldier 2 miles to safety. She remembered the night her team was ambushed, when she stood alone against an advancing line just long enough for the medevac to arrive. She remembered the skepticism she faced in every early step of her career, voices telling her she was too fragile, too young, too soft to carry the weight of command. She remembered proving them wrong, again and again, until her name became a whisper in the halls, attached to missions others feared, decisions others avoided, and sacrifices others did not dare to make. But none of them knew these things. They only saw her rank and presumed it was a mistake. The war room trembled faintly from distant artillery simulations running through the base's defense system, but she stood steady, holding her file close to her chest. She had not earned her place by favoritism. She had not climbed by chance. Every piece of her story was carved in sweat, pain, and relentless dedication. Yet even with all her achievements, she had learned long ago that respect was rarely given freely to someone like her, it had to be earned in moments that could not be ignored. She placed her report on the table, and at first, no one moved. The high-ranking officers continued speaking over her, as if she was a shadow passing through the room rather than the strategist assigned to lead the most critical operation of the month. The smirking general leaned back, arms crossed, eyes filled with something between arrogance and amusement. She felt her pulse hammer once against her ribs, but she did not lose control. She never did. Instead, she waited patiently, letting the murmurs circle around her like a fading storm. Then, at last, she reached for the projector remote. The moment the screens changed, the air shifted. The satellite images she revealed were not ordinary. They were precise, predictive, and displayed enemy movements none of the officers had been aware of. The entire left flank of the region, previously believed to be stable, was moments away from collapsing under a sweeping enemy maneuver. A maneuver she had identified 3 days earlier when she noticed a seemingly insignificant pattern in intercepted communications. A pattern everyone else dismissed as noise. But she had followed it, traced it, and through countless sleepless nights, turned that fragment into a full-scale prediction. The room slowly grew quiet. She explained the situation in clear, measured detail, revealing tactical insights no one else had seen. She laid out a rescue strategy that could save thousands of soldiers. She exposed the hidden traps, the enemy's disguised signals, the disguised terrain hazards that were invisible on standard scans. The officers leaned forward now, their earlier arrogance dissolving under the weight of her intelligence. The mocking general's smirk faded, replaced by a look of stunned realization. This was not guesswork. This was mastery. She was not here by mistake. She was here because she was the best mind for the mission. When she unveiled the final phase of her plan, a countermeasure that not only neutralized the enemy's advantage but flipped the entire battlefield's dynamic, the war room fell into a silence so deep it was almost reverent. The youngest intelligence analysts looked at her with wide eyes. The experienced commanders exchanged glances, murmuring among themselves with newfound respect. Slowly, a truth spread through the room like heat from a rising sun: she had just changed the trajectory of the war. The base commander, a man known for his strict adherence to merit and discipline, stood first. His chair scraped the floor sharply as he rose, his expression unwavering. Without a word, he brought his hand to his forehead in a crisp, formal salute. The general who had laughed moments earlier froze in place, stunned and embarrassed. Then, one by one, every officer in the room stood. Chairs pushed back. Boots aligned. Hands lifted in perfect precision. A sea of decorated soldiers, all higher in rank, older in age, longer in service, saluted her with solemn respect. Not because they were required to. Not because they feared reprimand. But because she had earned it, through sacrifice, brilliance, and a strength no one had seen coming until it blazed right in front of them. She stood there, absorbing the moment with steady breath. She did not smile. She did not gloat. She only nodded once, firm, humble, resolute. Because she knew the truth, respect meant nothing if her mission failed. And this mission would define lives, futures, and the very survival of her country. She accepted the salute, but her focus rested on what mattered most: saving her soldiers. The briefing ended differently than it had begun. Officers followed her with questions, not doubts. They offered support, not resistance. The mocking general approached her last, his eyes softened, his voice low, carrying unspoken apologies and an admiration he had never expected to feel. She did not hold grudges. She had no time for anger. Her heart had been built in fire, and she walked forward with purpose, not bitterness. The rest of the day unfolded in a storm of activity: troop repositioning, logistics realignment, emergency communications with frontline squads. She oversaw every detail, her voice steady, her commands clear. As night fell, she stood alone on the rooftop of the command center, overlooking the vast expanse of the base, the wind cold against her cheeks. In that quiet, she allowed herself one moment to feel the weight of everything she carried: the responsibility, the expectations, the memories of those she had lost, and the hope for those she still fought to protect. She closed her eyes briefly, sending a silent promise to the soldiers out there: they would not be abandoned. They would not be misled. They would not fall because of oversight or arrogance. Not under her watch. And the next morning, when her strategy unfolded exactly as predicted, saving lives and turning the tide of the conflict, the world finally learned her name. Not as a symbol. Not as a token. But as a leader forged in adversity, unbreakable in spirit, and undeniable in brilliance. From that day on, no one ever laughed at her rank again. If this story touched your heart in any way, I would be deeply grateful if you could support the video in whatever way you feel. Your kindness helps these stories reach more souls who need them. Special request: comment "Respect for real heroes" if the story moved you.